Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to the exciting installment of Darkness in Dublin. This evening's scene takes place in the bedroom of Samira Khatri, who, after a long day of service at the A&E, has dragged herself away from a 14-hour shift. They say it's only meant to be 10 hours. They lie. In order to stagger home to find some semblance of solace in her bed, because she just wants today to end.
Yep, she didn't even take off her fucking clothes. She didn't change. She just fucking dead.
As you faceplant onto those sweet, sweet covers of Sweet, Sweet Oblivion, you will hear a very quiet, polite cough from behind you, as in.
Okay, I'm not dead yet, so I'm assuming you're not going to kill me.
I can't say that that is entirely. Well, yes, I have no intention of killing you, Miss Carter. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, however.
Okay, sitting up now. Official log. Good evening.
You will see the Indian woman standing behind you. She is dressed in rather traditional Indian attire, including having the red dot imprinted in between her eyes. Or placed there rather, and she will say, "Good evening, Miss Capri. I apologize for interrupting you in your time of leisure."
I don't sleep too well anyway. You have me at a disadvantage, though, Miss.
Ah, well, my manners. Do forgive me. My name is Lakshmi Katar. It's Katari. Kathari. My name is Lakshmi Katari. At your service.
Hello, Miss Katari.
Hmm. I'm sorry to interrupt your time, as I've said. However, there has been a development, and I'm afraid that I must steal you for the evening.
All right.
I have a car waiting downstairs, if that's acceptable to you.
Sounds good to me. Are we? Mm, are we going to be turning the wheel?
No, not this evening.
All right.
We are going to, more aptly, I'm going to bring you up to speed on the current situation, and we are going to speak with one of the interested parties.
Very well then.
Very good. She'll turn and she'll say, considering the company we are about to keep, it might be best if you change, if that is acceptable to you.
I've been wearing these all day.
I was gonna say,
So
I'm assuming you're in scrubs.
yeah, probably.
Cool. She will walk out of the door and let you change.
Yep. And yeah, she'll fucking change right on out into something a bit more casual. Something a bit more like in the picture that you see here. But actually, probably with the jacket. It's how fucking cold is it in Ireland at this time of year?
Pretty cold. It's not snowing. It doesn't snow here very much, but it's quite cold and rainy.
Okay, I thought so. I figure the temperature is going to be about 10 degrees or so,
Yeah,
or lower than that.
about 10 degrees, so you're about right.
Okay.
As you guys head downstairs, you will see a very, very nice luxury BMW car, very, very wide and very spacious. You will see another Indian man is the driver. As you approach, the back door will open, and she will politely gesture for you to step inside.
She steps. Oh, there we go. She steps on in.
She will step in a few moments after you and close the door. You know where it is we have to go. You know where it is we have to go at 10. And please get us there as quickly as possible. As you say, miss, comes the man from the front, and he will say, I shall be blunt with you, Miss Cartry. Hang on.
Okay.
I'm just reading something. Ah, yes. The master of the house of Helikar has shown himself.
Oh, sorry.
The master of the house of Helikar has shown himself.
Do I know who that is off the top of my head?
Yeah, it's Vormus.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's just that
Um,
there's kind of a thing in the Yuthan, they don't like saying his name. So they'll call him by different names to avoid saying it. It's like, the whole Voldemort thing. If you say their name, it brings their ire or attention upon you.
um, sorry, what was that? My bad. A little bit of real life just came up right now.
Oh, is everything okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we can stop if it's, if you need to go and do things.
I don't need to go. We can keep on going.
Sure.
We can keep on going.
Okay. Yes, so as I said, they don't really like using his name, so they will come up with, they refer to him by different names, either like the Grand Harvester or, the Master of the House of Helikar, because they don't like saying his name out loud. It's almost like the Voldemort thing. If you say his name, he can listen, basically.
Oh, okay.
He has recently played a hand here in Dublin, I was led to understand, before being dispatched. However, he has now taken a personal interaction in the city as it pertains to three individuals. She will hold out she'll hold out a piece of paper on a clip pad for you.
Oh, what's she holding out to her for?
A clip pad.
Okay, just to like take notes and shit.
Oh, no. There's some documents on it for you to read.
Okay, yeah, she'll start reading those.
Basically, it details an instance that took place at a Starbucks, basically in the middle of Arnott's, which is a large shopping centre in the middle of Dublin City, whereby three magi in the personages of Darcy, Sam, and, well, the Azure Sailor, who is Grog. So we'll just say that he has been lit on fire. Don't worry about it. Basically encountered. Oh, sorry. Yes, those three individuals, along with the extra. They're not exactly sure what to call Hope in document form, so they call her the extraordinary being known as, in inverted commas, Hope, encountered what they believe to be a projected manifestation of Vormus, who used who used a vestige of his powers in order to cause Nastarcy's heart to seize, and whilst this was going on, proceeded to bombard Hope with images of humanity's turbulent and oftentimes terrible past, to the point that it almost caused her psyche to unravel. However, Darcy was able to prevent the process at great personal expense to her own sanity and well being. And currently, Hope is in the care of Lord Sysho, who is the most recognized master of mind in the city, who is attempting to fix the damage.
All right. Okay, so basically, how I understand it is basically some really bad shit done happened to Hope, uh, and Darcy basically came down and did some heroic sacrifice shit.
Essentially, yes. This is, of course, made all the more poignant specifically to you based on the book that you were able to read in Siren's library.
Okay.
But she will say, so we are on our way to this Temple of 10,000 Happinesses in order to investigate what in more detail has occurred with this entity known as Hope. I thought that you might be able to give me some valuable insight.
I'll do what I can.
I'm confused why it is the Harvester has decided to finally play a hand. He's not been active in almost a decade, frankly. We had thought that maybe he had either lost interest in the world or had finally succumbed to death, but it would appear as though that's not the case.
Mm.
Needless to say, I have already met briefly with Miss Darcy in order to make sure that her karma had not been fouled by her presence and proximity to the Devourer. It turns out that it had not been. For that I am grateful. I would not have wanted to deliver unto her the good death. However, her companions in the form of Doctor Eliza Hoth seemed to be rather hostile, including issuing physical threats were it that I would have to perform my duties.
Mm.
I'm not sure if this is, well, needless to say, I can understand that these individuals may have grown close. However, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, if her karma had indeed been altered by the Great Devourer, it may have been kinder in order to put her out of her own misery.
Right.
Fortunately, that was, however, not the case.
Good thing, then.
Agreed. Agreed. The car speeds on through the night, and she'll say, I'm curious, Miss Cartry, do you have any idea why it is that this entity, Hope, or indeed the Devourer, would have any interest therein?
The way it was explained to me. Mm, I. It was explained from the point of view of a chorister, but basically, she has divinity, but she still has free will. She essentially would have the power of an Abrahamic angel without the lack of free will.
Ah. So essentially, whereas the other, I believe the term in Hindu for angel, because they do have them, is Disatra. I think that's what it is.
Like
They're
it's that.
basically divine beings.
I was like, it's that or Deva or something.
No, but we'll use Deva. I believe, like all of the Deva in our own mythos, are so or in our own in our own beliefs, are bound directly to the service of Vishnu and do not do anything save by his word. It would be much the same in this case, yes.
Similar based on what I can gather.
So, what you're saying is the Devourer wishes to use her in some way?
I think so.
That is dangerous. That is very dangerous. Poor girl. The car at this point will pull up outside of the Temple of 1,000 Happinesses, or 10,000 Happinesses, at which point Lakshmi will open the door of the car and step out. She'll hold it open for you.
Yep, she'll come on out.
Okay. She'll close the door behind you. She'll motion to the driver and she'll say, I should be a little while. Just go around back and wait. As you say. At which point he will drive around. You will enter the Temple of 10,000 Happinesses, at which point you will of course be bombarded with the smell of cheap buffet food and the rather obnoxious, slightly racist, announcements from the various slot machines. You are lucky winner! And whatever else have you. Lakshmi will walk to the reception desk and exchange a few quiet words with the receptionist, who will nod her head. You will be led out into a space that I do not believe you've been in this temple before. You will be led out into a... You'll be led outside once again into a large walled courtyard area, in which there sits a perfect Japanese-style pagoda. Now, you are outside, and the Temple of a Thousand Happinesses is very much in the center of the city, and yet out here, you can't hear the sounds of traffic or conversation. You can't even hear like the loud, obnoxious music playing anymore when the door closes behind you. And it's not cold here. It is rather an ideal temperature. So, you know, it is pleasant enough that you can easily walk around out here without a jacket, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you will see, kneeling in the middle of the pagoda, with his eyes closed, Lord Saisho, and laying on a couch next to where he is knelt, a very low couch, is Hope. Hope is physically covered in tiny, in small cuts that look like they were inflicted by, frankly, her own nails. And you can see traces of blood under her fingernails. Blood that seems to have an odd glowing ominence to it. A lot of her hair has been ripped from her scalp, and you can see that the head is has been tended to medically. So like it's got a salve on it currently. Saisho will stand when he hears you approach, his head turning to look at you, the long black hair spilling over his shoulder, before he will walk towards the center of the pagoda and will sit down. The way I'm going to describe this to Sam is as you look on, essentially, at the moment, she looks as though it's like the worst kind of physical mutilation a person can inflict upon themselves without a weapon. If you get me?
Woo! Damn. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Saisho will sit down. He sits with his knees under him. You know that the way that, and he'll gesture for you guys to sit. There's a low table, and he will offer you both cups of tea that he will pour from a small clay teapot. Do you accept? Do you accept tea?
Yeah.
Okay. He will pour it and he will place it down on little. There are tiny little, not tables, almost like you know the things I'm talking about, almost like trays, raised trays that are next to you, so you can put your teacups down. And he will say, "I have been dealing with a difficult situation." As he says this, he moves his hair back, and you'll see there's a huge cut running from the top of his lip all the way up to the side of his face, and one of his eyes is completely bloodshot.
Ooh, damn.
Needless to say, it has not been easy. Your friend, I'm led to understand, Miss Cartry. Yes, you are Miss Cartry. I'm led to understand you were there when Hope was created, correct?
Out of character, she wasn't there.
Oh,
She wasn't in that game.
he thinks you were.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Sam will say, I wasn't there when it occurred, no.
Interesting. My apologies, I shall have to get my records updated. But I'm not exactly sure what the purpose was behind the attack that was committed upon her, but when allowed to regain consciousness, she lapses into vicious, almost psychotic rages that are either turned outward. He points to his face. Now, bear in mind, you've seen Saisho. He's generally like I wouldn't fuck with him. Let's phrase it like that. Like for somebody to land such a solid blow on him clearly shows something. Um, or she becomes destructive. Unfortunately, needless to say, she is able to do quite significant damage to herself, so I have felt it is best to keep her sedated for the time being.
All right, sounds like a good call then.
Yes. What he showed her, from what I've been able to ascertain, he raises his hand, at which point you will see he will raise his hand and he'll kind of move it to the side in a flicking motion, and he will gesture for you to look down at your cup.
Looks down at her cup.
Okay. Playing very, very quickly through the cup, you will see images of abject human torture. You will see you will see the likes of children being gassed during World War II, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. People being guillotined in front, like abject horror, the abject horror of humanity. Children being left to cry alone in the dark, starving to death by parents who don't care. Truly the most horrid sights that you can imagine. And he will, before he will stop by closing his hand, he will say, and that was only a tiny taste of what it was that was essentially forced into her mind at an incredible pace. She lived that for, as near as I can tell, 4 to 5 years in mental time.
Oh shit, that's not good.
No, it's not. So currently I am attempting to. Well, currently I am facing a conundrum. I can either attempt to rebuild her in the sense of I can attempt to erase that from her mind and erase the concepts that it created, but that would mean delving very deeply into her psyche, and I don't necessarily know what else would be dragged away with it. Or I could try to calm her to the point where she becomes lucid enough where she may be able to be brought to understand what she has seen. But that creates its own conundrum.
And so we're trying to figure out which of these two options would work the best.
Currently, yes. Lakshmi nods as she looks down at her cup, and she'll say, "This is interesting. I don't know exactly why it is that he deigned to show her such images, perhaps to engender hatred for humanity. That would make the most sense, I should think. Would you not agree, Miss Cartry?"
Based on what little I understand of his motives, would make quite a bit of sense.
Hmm. The poor child, she's suffered immensely. This is going to be a complicated maneuver, I have no doubt. You're not exactly wrong. Needless to say, it would take even my skills and place them to the absolute test, because as I said, either way, I would have to keep her calm, and I'm not exactly sure I can do that. Or I would have to erase the memories, and I'm not exactly sure if I can be as fine a scalpel as is needed, because I do not believe there is a fine enough scalpel.
Because for her, it would be removing 4 to 5 years.
Well, once again, that was in mental time, so what she experienced was done incredibly quickly, but from her perspective, it lasted roughly that long, yes. But not, it's because of the nature of memories. Memories sink into us very quickly. They become absorbed by us. They form links to other things in our minds. So if I take out certain things, I might well remove others that are linked to it. Do you understand the concept, Ms. Cartry?
I think so. Basically,
It's it's like why do you have a certain smell that you associate with a time in your life?
Sure, we'll go with uh, eggs would be associated with breakfast.
And do you have a certain song that whenever you hear it, you will immediately think of the first of a point in your life?
Yes.
Therein is the most basic of comparisons I can make.
Okay. So basically, it's so ingrained and so much a part of her.
Mm. Essentially, from a mental perspective, she lived it for approximately 4 years. So, taking out that, it's more than me simply removing the information. It is me in removing what she became over that time, which is a very difficult prospect.
Hmm. Okay. So one option puts someone else at risk, whilst the other one puts her at risk.
Yes. It would not just put the person at risk, it would put everyone at risk. She was able to break through all of my not substantial defenses in the blink of an eye before it was able to before she struck me. And he points towards his face. And it took all of my might to put her. Took all of my might and the death of 6 of my men before I could put her down again. So I'm looking for consultation. What do you feel I should do?
Sam sits there and thinks for a little bit. Eventually, she just kind of she finally just relents to her to her to her to her gut and says, "If we could, you yourself are already very potent, Saisho. Would Sama be the correct
Some is
honorific?
good. Yeah.
All right, you yourself are already very potent, Saisho Sama. If we can get more mages and all work on something to get her to calm down, it sounds as if a dive might be the better option, since just cutting out may have ramifications that we don't know about."
I'm inclined to agree with you. Very well. I will keep her sedated for now, and we will attempt to organize a larger conglomeration of us together to attempt to hold her in a state of calm.
All right.
So that we may be able to allow her to come to realization of what has happened, because it is my fervent belief that when she opens her eyes, she believes she is still in that situation. I don't think that she has stopped seeing it, which is why I am thoroughly petrified at what would have happened in the event that it had not been stopped by Miss Ellsworth. She stopped it before it could be completed.
Sam is going to note the fact that the situation is so grave that Saisho himself just admitted he was fucking scared.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. He has never done that before.
Yeah. Yeah. And she'll say, all right, so for diving, for lack of a better term, basically, it would definitely need to be a group. You don't want to get into somebody's head by yourself, as you likely already know.
Indeed.
It'll take time to set up, because we would need multiple mages to conduct the ritual needed to, for lack of a better term, sedate her. Meanwhile, another team uses a spell to merge Atman. Or
there is another option. This might be a better option, but it depends. We could take it. We could make it so that she, rather than confronting her in the real world, as it were, I could send you into her dreams.
Oh, I apologize, Saisho-sama. I thought that that's what we were already talking about.
No, what we were talking about was us keeping her awake and calm. But
Oh.
the dreams are also an option, which is why I'm voicing it.
That's with trauma as deep as that. Quite frankly, I don't think that we'll have the necessary time to wait for her to pull herself out of this before he comes back. I have brought people from. No, I'm not going to oversell myself. I've brought one person that was coming back from the break.
Mm-hmm. Ah, yes, this was Dr. Langley, I believe is her name.
Yes.
Yes.
And, well, that was quite lethal. Although that may have been, that was partially due to outside interference, but considering what she's got going on in there, and what she's seen, I'd hazard it'd probably be just as dangerous, if not more.
I don't know. It is something to be definitely contemplated, yes, but we shall have to see. Very well. I believe that this is indeed correct to be the best course of action moving forward. I will need to assemble the necessary equipment, and I would recommend actually, yes, it's technically Dr. Cartry, shouldn't call you Miss Cartry, Dr. Cartry, that you assemble a small group of individuals to be willing to enter and see what can be seen, as it were.
I can do this.
I have faith in your abilities.
Samson back of her head thinking that situation. This situation is fucking dire.
In that case, I will go back to making sure that she remains asleep, as she is constantly fighting me to regain consciousness, but I sense that that is not a step that is likely to end in anyone's happiness at this point. I shall hope that you find solace in your steps, Miss Cartry. I shall see you soon, no doubt.
You will, yes.
Good. As Sam gets up, mostly because it's quite early here, we shall end our scene. So thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another Scene in Darkness in Dublin. Have a pleasant evening.